Today I'll be talking about trauma and the relationship it has with addiction. Often you'll see the two go hand in hand. You'll see that a lot of addicts have had a past trauma. Today I'll take a certain kind of trauma and how it relates to addiction. A trauma where you are powerless, you're helpless, right? The kind of trauma I'm talking about usually happens when you're a kid, when you're young, when you're a child, because you're helpless as a kid. You can't realize your own power, right? Your parents are supposed to take care of you. So if you have these deep feelings of helplessness and powerlessness, they will translate into an addiction a lot of the times. So if these deep-seated feelings into you as a kid, they get ingrained to your person, you will get used to it. These feelings will be part of your identity. That is not your fault. Let's put that first. It's very important to realize that it's not your fault. Second, it's also very important to realize you can do something about it. And you are the only one that can do something about it. And this might upset some people, but you have to do or change something about yourself to change those feelings of helplessness and powerlessness inside of you. Does this tie into addiction? What you are looking for when you have these deep feelings of powerlessness and hopelessness is control. And you don't even need a trauma to realize this or to have this. You don't need to have a trauma to be obsessed with control in your life. If you're looking for more control in your life, don't go looking for a trauma to collect, right? This ties into addiction because you are used to not having control of your life. You are used to helplessness and powerlessness. Why is addiction the logical step for you? Because you are giving away your control to things like weed, alcohol, maybe smoking is also one. Like any kind of addiction, porn is an addiction. Because you have these traits of feeling helpless, they're not traits. Because you have these feelings ingrained into your identity of helplessness and powerlessness since you were a child, you are used to giving up your control. And one of the best ways to give up your control is an addiction. Say you drink a lot, it numbs you out. You don't have to control your feelings. Say you smoke weed, you get numbed out. Or you do feel your feelings. I've heard multiple things. But then the weed is doing the hard parts for you. You are reinforcing the structure and system that you are used to because you had the trauma. When you realize you do this, it's one of the first steps to actually healing. It's one of the first steps to be able to realize you can change. So it's those feelings of helplessness and powerlessness that make it so you want to give away your control. Because when you were a kid and bad things happened to you, what could you do? Nothing. There was nothing you could do, and it's not your fault. I'll say this again, and I'll say this as many times as I have to. It is not your fault. and it's not your fault. Those feelings are inside you. So what is your fault, right? What you can accuse yourself of is how you handle it now. If you want to blame someone, if you want to blame someone, I wouldn't say blame yourself, but it is a way, and it's helped me, it is a way to realize your power. And that is what you need when you are addicted or struggling with the feelings of powerlessness and helplessness. You need some way to realize you are in control, and you need to ease up to the feeling of having control of your life. You need to ease into the way of being responsible for yourself. So what can you accuse yourself of? Not being responsible for yourself. If you just forget about everyone else and how everyone feels about your addiction, how everyone feels about you drinking too much and smoking too much, take a moment to feel how you feel about your responsibility, right? Let's make it very concrete. Let's say you have a trauma. It made you feel helpless and you didn't have control because you were a kid, for example. What this leads to very often is addiction. Why? Because the suffering you've had in your trauma was the suffering of helplessness, having no control. Because you want a familiar feeling, because your identity is constructed around the feeling of helplessness and having no control, you look towards things that reinforce your identity. This is what your ego does. You will look for ways that reinforce helplessness and having no control. And you do this because it's a familiar suffering. This is your this is your comfortable way of having control. You choose your suffering. It feels comfortable because you're used to it. It's your favorite type of pain. So it leads to addiction, let's say alcohol or weed or both, or say a mix of a lot of stuff. So you choose your favorite kind of suffering. The standard way is to choose a type of suffering that you're comfortable with. So this immediately begs the question, how do I get out? Well, it's kind of a logical thing. You choose the unfamiliar suffering. So if you want to make the first steps out of this box, try to put yourself in positions of control and responsibility. So this doesn't have to be very difficult stuff, like go out for a walk every day. Try different forms of being in control. You will feel the same kind of anxiety, the same kind of helplessness come up because you're not used to it, to taking control, to taking responsibility. It's something you have to practice. So the more you take on things where you have to show responsibility and control yourself, the more you'll resolve the feelings and the habits around being helpless and having no control and having no power. And this will also wean you off. This will wean you off going back into the addiction because you want to reinforce the systems you're used to. So try to build small steps out of that system.